are listening to the Balancing Act podcast. Here's your hosts, Jamie Wonko and Joe Vitale.
All right.
And we are recording.
I didn't know if you knew this, but we're recording. Here we are, everybody. Welcome back. Now I can't do it without laughing.
I know. I'm the same.
So, hey.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back to you too. Here we are. We're doing things and stuff.
Doing it. What is this little production called?
Hey, yes, welcome back to the Balancing Act podcast. It's been a day. Welcome back everyone to the Balancing Act podcast. I am one of your two hosts. I'm Joe Vitale, and this is the lovely Jamie Wong. Jamie and her plant. She's hanging out with her plant. She's hanging out with her plant in the corner. If you watch on the YouTube, you will see it.
My pumpkin doesn't show because it's blocked by my name. But
yeah. I really love the pumpkin. Trick or treat yourself. We talked about that in a previous episode.
I guess it's not going to show it either way. But hi, everybody. I hope that you are cozied up with a hot beverage, maybe a little blanket. It's starting to feel a little bit of fall, tiny bit.
A little bit. It's getting there.
Maybe 5 minutes at night and 5 minutes in the morning, we can start to feel those fall vibes. And, I always laugh at the saying, I thought of somebody today when it was, we had like flannel day. There's a lot of people dressed up like cowboys today. And I missed the memo on that. And I was like, what's happening?
So they did it for Hispanic Heritage Month. I think it was Caballeros Day or something, which is fine. So they did that, but they also coincided it with Week of Respect, Spirit Week. So it was also Hat Day. So it was like wear a cowboy hat, but also wear a regular hat, but then wear your hat upside down. And then I don't know. There's just so many. There's so many things going on. There's so many things going on.
Games happening, and it's like they're like mushing together. So I was like, what is happening? There's like, I really wanted someone, in the Friends episode when Joey is like fighting at the when he works at the perfume counter, and the guy's like, hombre. And
yeah.
There were people today.
She can't control herself, ladies and gentlemen. There were some cowboys, but there were some people dressed up like, listen, there were some kids that were dressed up and they looked actually pretty sharp. I'm not going to lie. There were a couple kids that walked past me and I was like, that kid looks pretty sharp.
Yeah.
There was one boy who had like a whole like white shirt, black pants, brown shoes, brown hat. And like, I was like, you look good, man. You look handsome. You look good. You got the drip going. That's what the kids say, right?
You're looking sharp there, buddy. You're looking sharp.
They don't say sharp. They say drip. Got that drip.
I know. And do you know what is another word that I just recently learned?
What'd you learn?
Which is bop.
Oh, yeah.
You know what that is?
It is.
Like, hey,
Yeah.
hey.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, don't, if a kid comes to the bathroom singing, and don't say to them like, that's a bop, because you'll, do yourself in right quick.
Yeah. I've been enjoying walking around the cafeteria. I have a very good, I have a very good propensity of the ability. One of my defining
One of your gifts. Yes.
One of my gifts as an individual is I can make up, I'm a song parody expert. Okay. So
it's a gift we share, I feel.
it is the gift we share. So like we have like Chapel Roan, HOTGOGO, right? Chapel Roan, big deal. So there's kids walking around the cafeteria and I'm like, SITDOWN. I don't want to say it again because we're not sitting down in the cafeteria. So in order for me to...
Oh my God.
I'm trying to collect myself in order for me to relieve tension.
Love that.
I also go up to kids like when they're doing things. I'm like, hey, let's play another episode of my favorite game, Good Choice or Bad Choice. And let's
go for bad choice for 5,000.
Let's say, is that a good choice or a bad choice? It's a bad choice. Or I try to set like I have one other guy that's in the cafeteria with me, and every once in a while, like he'll be like disciplining a kid, and I'll just be behind him, and I'll like be like, silent lunch. Silent lunch. Silent lunch. And then like other kids start to join in. Like I'm my own worst enemy. But
That's
like
awesome. That's
speaking of
great.
that's kind of our topic for today because we're talking about friends and coworkers. Is it
True love or trauma bonding?
true love or trauma bonding?
Mm.
Which is I think an important topic. Because I've been on both sides of that coin.
Agree,
Especially,
agree.
even with yourself. I mean, we're close friends. We spend a good amount of time together, both in
Yeah.
work and
He's not
sometimes
your
out of work.
real friend. He's your work
He's your
friend,
work friend, but
right?
I consider you to be, buddy, a real friend.
Yeah, I
Someone.
mean, it is really a serious relationship that you develop at school. And it can certainly be there can certainly be moments where like to quote the great Sophia Vitale, like, we're just not that close. There can be people that you think
We've talked about that story before, where Mrs. Wonko touched my daughter's foot at the pool, and my daughter was like, "Stop it, we're not that close." Meanwhile, my daughter is like,
oh my god, I was
"We
like,
should go shopping for the Gilmore Girls bracelet at Home Goods together."
I
Like,
know, and
there's
I'm like,
apparently like a thing going
oh,
on.
it's a big thing. I've been looking and looking and looking, and she's like, "I'll go with you to all the Home Goods around the state." I was
Oh,
like,
first of
"Yes."
all, girl loves herself a Home Goods. She's
Ugh.
not just you, my daughter as well.
No, I know. Has she
Yeah,
been to Home since?
I don't
That's
think
the one on Route
so.
22. Maybe I'll have to take her
There
there.
is a Home Sense in like Brick or Wall or somewhere down there.
Oh, because there's
Yeah.
one right down, if you go down, Lake, like, right up, to where Route 22 hits there's one right
Oh
there.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's really super close. So I'll have to schedule a date with her,
For for
even though we're
those of
not
you
that
that
close.
maybe for those of you that are listening, not in the state of New Jersey, that's one of the gazillion roads that we have in New Jersey that are everywhere. So
So
yeah, I
true.
mean, yeah, I kind of
Yeah,
lost my train of thought.
so tell me when you were, when you were fresh out of college, right?
Yes.
You got your first teaching job. What were the, roadblocks? So I've seen some posts recently, and we are gonna, talk more about, like, mean girl moms, and then there's also, like, this culture of mean teachers, who are, you can't sit here kind of a vibe, right? And that is happening in lots of places, in I'm sure in businesses. The difference with schools, I think, is that they don't have like a dedicated human resources person like per building. We do have our like the union rep, and then we have the person who's in charge of not sexual harassment. What's the other thing called? Where we have to watch the,
Harassment and intimidation
yeah,
and
like
bullying. Yeah.
HAB. But no,
Yeah.
what's that other,
Affirmative action.
affirmative
Affirmative
action?
action.
Thank
Yes.
you. So there
Sorry.
are some avenues that you could go to if someone was, like your principal, vice principal, if someone's, maybe what you perceive as like that, or that they are bothering you or leaving you out, or something. But so which fascinates me because people do it all the time, but you're an adult, so like, what are you doing? Especially you're an adult in a school working with kids, so you're supposed to be leading by example. But when you first started teaching, what did that
Back.
look like for you?
Well, first of
Back in
all,
your day.
back when we used candles for light when I
Oh my
started teaching.
goodness. When you powered your car with your feet.
Yes, power my car with my feet. I actually have a very funny girl in one of my classes who we were talking about something, and I was like, "Oh, well, how old am I?" And she's like, "Oh, you're 60." And I was like, "60? 60? We're fighting." I was like, "I'm not talking to you for the rest of the week." She thought I was serious, and she came in like 2 days later. It's like, "I'm really sorry for calling you 60. I was like, "Please don't think I'm serious. Did you think I was?" I had to like talk to her. I was like, I didn't even think twice about it. I thought you were just
Right.
messing with me." Um, Anyway, so I really didn't have a I wouldn't say I had a problem. I wouldn't say that I had a problem fitting in. There were other people that were around my age, and you went out and you got beers every once in a while, and you hung out with people and you got to know people, like, but as far as like a professional relationship, like I wasn't really properly mentored because like it really wasn't like as defined of a process as it is today. It was like you met with them every once in a while. The guy really never came and like checked in on me to see what you were
Right.
doing. I had to sign the paperwork that we met and he got his money and that was
Yeah.
the end of it.
It was
And
probably like "Do you need anything?" That's what I got, like,
That's
"Do you need anything?"
pretty
And it was
much
like,
what it
"I
was.
don't even know what I need.
Yeah,
Can't you tell me?"
you don't know what you need, and they didn't have, like, new teacher academies at the time either.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, it was like, "You're in a classroom, you just
Yeah.
graduated, this is what you're
And
doing
go.
now,
Right, yeah.
and go." So, I actually made it the point to try to be as inclusive a person as possible with, like, all people that I work with. There are people that you don't get along with. Let's not say, like, "Oh, it's all sunshine and rainbows, and I love everyone." That is not the
No,
case.
no.
But what I found, and I've been in different schools, is that, um, a lot of the bonding that comes, it comes from, like, what I experienced was it comes from a us against them mentality,
Yeah,
where it was the teachers versus the administration. We thought things might go one way with the students, that this wasn't happening with discipline, this wasn't happening with student expectations, and that they should be working in a different capacity to fix it. And I tried to be a bridge between the two, to always be like a proactive person. I was never the kind of person to like have a meeting with someone and say, "Here's a problem, now fix it," and lay at their feet. Like, I always tried to come with like some kind of solution to the problem. And I still do that. Okay. The
yeah,
difference for me today is I feel that instead of people on the same boat rowing in different directions, I feel that like we're all rowing the boat in the same direction, being led by someone who you know where you stand. And I mean, I'm not trying to make it an ass kissing competition with my boss, but I appreciate the way that she leads. There are times that you don't agree with things, like with anyone else. But there are also times where I feel like, okay, I have somebody that is at least going to point the finger at themselves when a mistake gets made. Um, so I think there was more of this like camaraderie, like we all have dirt on our boots, and we're dealing with the same student issues. So there was more of like a trauma bonding aspect than
mhm.
a like true friendship with people. Because as years go on, there are people you don't talk to anymore,
Yeah.
and they're just work acquaintances.
Yeah. There are some, like, very distinct things, that happened, when I had first started, teaching, and, there were some people who really, made me feel so incredibly welcome, and for as many of the people who, really made me feel welcome, there were people who made it very clear that I had 0, place,
That's
in
so
where I was.
it's so unfortunate. I like
And so, it just, but, it also, it's going to be a male female. It's going to be different. The vibe is for sure going to be different. Like in contrast, when I moved to the school now, I'm in a subject where it's male dominated, and being the only female, like, there is a terrific advantage because, men, in many cases, like, don't bring as much, like, judgment or, like, some of the whisper talk things. I will say there was, like, a courteous nature to it's taken a couple of years, like, to kind of like, oh, she can take a joke, or, oh, we can talk about, A, B, and C, or whatever it might be. There's like, somebody walks past you and they just do this.
she's giving the finger on the side of her face, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah,
Which, it just makes me laugh. So things like that, where I get it, like, you have to kind of give it time to see, but the idea of, like, bonding and these friendships, I have quite a few friends that I cannot imagine my life without. And what's funny is that my 22-year-old self wasn't necessarily like, and part of that, I'm going to take ownership myself. I wasn't like that interested in, like, being as friendly. I was friends, but I kind of was like, am I really going to be like really this close with people that I work with?
yeah,
And after a couple of years, it was like, yes, 100%.
yeah.
And there are so many people that I am lifelong friends with that are not just acquaintances, but are like true friends of the heart
Yeah.
forever and ever and ever.
I think I want to go back to something. I know this episode is coming out after our episode with Dr. Santarelli, where it talked about Mean Girl moms. I think there's some kind of I'm not trying to make any kind of sexist statement, but I think women can be meaner than men, in regards to like not being, in regards to being clicky with one another. I'm wondering if when you experienced some of those things when you were early in your career, were you in a building that was predominantly women?
So, it happened twice in my first year ever, where like there were people, they were nice, but and also in elementary school, I think people are exceptionally busy in a way that teaching the 7 subjects or 8 subjects, or and then there's only 2 of you in a grade level, so there's only so much time, and I think had I given it if I had been there more time, it would have been like a much better experience. It was
Yeah.
just like I was 22 years old. It was also like I started teaching 5 days. It was my fifth day of teaching was 9/11, right? So there was like a lot of stuff going on, like even in the world, that now in my experience, I can look back and say, wow, that was bigger than me. And that was also I was new in a school where my principal had hired me and brought me in, and that immediately was a red flag for people.
Oh yeah.
Now cut to like the first year goes by and he gets a promotion and he turns around and he says, "Your kid, you're coming with me." And I receive like favoritism? Absolutely. Was that, something that it was like my fault? No. Did I benefit from it? Uh, Not really. I worked my butt off. And so, I still feel like all these years later, I'm still someone who like I say yes and I do. And oh, do you want to host this? Do you want to run this? Do you want to? Yes, 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 yes. It's sort of just who I am by nature. So I go with him my second year, and unbeknownst to me, someone was taken out of their classroom so that I could have a classroom. Now, after a couple of months, I could hear like the whispers. I realized what had happened.
Mhm.
But is that enough? It was like, well, who is this girl and where is she coming from? Oh, she's the boss's little pet. They actually had for a long time like a favorites list, and they would say like, who's in his top 10. Right. And, so like people were vying for, attention, or, not, wow, you're a really good worker, or wow, you really do your job, or wow, you really go above and beyond. So there was a lot of that. So I can't say it was necessarily all female, but but what I will say is, and I think I do there's a lot where like I relate, in like to men and like their sort of no nonsense behavior, or attitudes. In my new school, as a second year teacher, I found my way into, and it was really by accident. Someone had said to me, like, oh, we eat over the, like downstairs and around. And it was like, oh, okay. And I found my way into the faculty room that I thought the people that were in my grade level were in, and it wasn't. It was the wrong one. So instead of going to the 6th grade faculty room, I ended up in the 8th grade faculty room. And that is where I stayed for years. And
Mhm.
it was like instantly warm and instantly welcoming. And it was like many of the gym teachers. And it was, just like this really great environment. And I, became very good friends with them. And then, eventually and over time developed friendships with other people at work as well at work. But we saw each other through a lot of things, right? You start
Yeah.
having, like you start going through, you get married and then you're having babies and you have these huge milestones in your life. And the people that you're spending all of this time with are really witnessing like that day to day. The wins and the losses that you're going through in a way that, other friends that you might see once a month, or it's just not as like accessible,
Yeah.
So you start to kind of pour your heart out to people, and it really does become a very, very deep relationship.
Yeah, and for me, one coworker in particular, because we were the same age, and Jamie, you worked with her for a little while.
Yeah.
We are at each other's weddings and saw each other's, kids be born. And the first play date my kids ever had was with her daughter when they were around the same age. And it's really funny that even when we try to get together once a summer, maybe twice a summer, and when we do, the kids are like immediately, friendly and playing video games and messing with each other and stuff like that. It's just an interesting, I don't know, it's weird. It's like they know.
They grew up
It's
together.
like they grew up together. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there was some of that. And then I also want to make mention of something. Do you remember our first interaction together? Because I do.
Hmm. Tell me, tell me, tell
Okay,
me.
so it was at Tech Academy. Okay. It was at Tech Academy, and I knew who you were, but I don't think
Okay.
we had ever maybe we had crossed paths before. Maybe
Okay.
you had been in the technology training that I was doing, or you were in
Okay.
there, whatever. So
Was
you
this
were
was one of the summer ones?
it was one of the summer ones, and
Was I teaching or participating?
you were teaching,
Okay.
you were doing, I don't know if you were doing How Did I no, you weren't doing How Did I Not Know That?
Mm-mm.
You were there
Okay.
for something. I don't
Okay.
remember what it was for.
Yeah. I was there for the
Uh,
lunch.
all right, so we were
Those
sitting around.
lunches were epic, but yes.
It was a breakfast. We were sitting around at a breakfast,
Okay.
and we were talking about something, and I don't remember what it was. And you said like, "Oh, and it's like super hot. It's like gross, and there's no air conditioning. You just go home and you're like you Winnie the Pooh it, and you just like." I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, you just go home, you take your pants off, like Walker, you Winnie the Pooh it." And like I got the reference, but I didn't get the reference, and I was
Yeah.
immediately I was like, "That fucking girl right there." She's my people and I'm gonna hang out with her. And that's
Right.
like it's kind of how it started. And then like
Yes.
whenever we were doing technology stuff, I would like drag you into things
Yeah.
professionally, but also, our kids knowing each other and things
Yeah.
like that. So there's
You know what
different
I like too about our friendship, and especially like starting professionally, and then of course it's gone on and it's morphed into outside of work friends. But what I
but
love
we're
is
not
that,
that but we're not that
but we're
close.
not that close. It's just it's classic. But the idea of I am, I have been called a pusher before. I push people. I like to encourage people to do things that I know that they, you know, I feel like I can see in people like risks that they should take and that they can, kind of really go for it. And I I can't always say like I'm more of the pusher. I haven't always had people pushing me.
Mhm.
And so like instantly you were like someone who was like, you should do this. Why don't you do that? You could do that. Let's do this. Come on, let's do this. Right. I mean, even right now we're sitting here and you're like, we're doing this, right? We're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
And that's great. Like that is such an important dynamic in a friendship to have someone who's like, yeah, come on, let's go. Let's do it. And I think that that is, like it's everything.
Yeah. No, so but again, it wasn't through trauma.
It
It's funny
wasn't.
that like
Although I
they're
like when
like,
I thought you were going to be like,
ah. No, but no, I mean,
I was just
my
posing
so
everyone. I was doing a
so
pose, a looking
So
pose.
my other, relationship with the other coworker was like
Yes.
that's more through trauma, but also through good times as well. Like let's be very
Yes.
honest, like because we shared a lot together, and we would go out for drinks after work, and we would meet up, and there were other people that were like in our small little group that we would get together, and two have
Yes.
since retired.
Yes. And the
Um,
level of stress that teachers face and the amount of trauma that we have to filter through and what we need to do in a 10-minute time period, let alone a 10-year time period, you 100% need people that you can say anything to and they are not going to judge you. You can tell them your best, your worst, the in between, and they are going to fully support. And then, of course, turn it around and use it against you
oh, that's
as a funny
exactly
story.
it. No, no, there's that, but also when you say use it against you, I went negative because I
Oh,
remember that when I went from one school to another, principal had been transferred, and I was supposed to go to a different building, and I needed to. Like
yeah.
there were some viable reasons why I needed to go to another building, because of
Yeah,
some
of course.
situations, nothing that was of my control, but like things
No.
that just I needed to change. So okay, we're gonna transfer you, and then that didn't happen. And then I was kind of stuck in this period of limbo. And then that principal went over to the new building. And then the following year, I was brought over. And when I was brought over, it
Okay.
was like apparently there was another person that they thought would get that job or that room. But like, then I was in there and I was like supposed like people were like, oh, it's her guy,
Mm-hmm.
and I dealt with a lot of that. And there was a time where I was like, okay, well, I had a conversation in a room full of people, and I said it, and it was like a committee or like a group that was on our committee for like PBSIS, and I said, like, we're being asked to do a lot of additional things, but we're really not getting any additional time to do
To
those
do
things.
it.
So I think it
Yeah.
would be good to have a conversation about like, let's have some release time to be able to plan these things because I can't. I need. There's only so much I can do.
Yes.
I had little kids at home and stuff like that. So like I wasn't going home and doing extra work because there was no time for that.
Right.
And I remember immediately, and I know who did it, but I remember immediately the next period getting a phone call. It's like, oh, what's with this conference? And I'm like, that's not what, no, that's not what happened.
They're not in the trust tree, are they?
No. And I was like, and that person who has since went on to be an administrator in another district.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a use of weaponizing a statement
Yes.
to advance somebody else. And
Yeah.
I promise myself I will never do those things. If I have a
Yeah.
specific problem with somebody, I will go and tell them
Yeah.
professionally
Yeah.
that this is what my issue is.
Yeah.
I would appreciate it if that didn't happen again, so on and so forth, and move on. I've had those conversations with my boss. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are times like where you just be like, hey, I need to vent. I need to have a conversation right now with the door closed. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like
Mm-hmm.
whatever it may be. Um, I need that trust factor in my life. And
Yeah.
for that to happen at that point, I was like, nope, you people are on your own.
Right.
And not only that, I know I'm going to sound arrogant. I'm really good at the types of things that they were trying to set up. I had
Yeah.
experience. I had experience. I had success. I had worked on teams. I had difficult conversations. I know how to have them with people. I also know, and you can attest to this, how to get people to buy in. Where I want to go, hey, you'd be good at this. Can you?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
need your help.
Yeah.
I know you can help me do this. Can you help me?
Yes.
And that's how our relationship kind of started. But
Yeah.
at that particular moment, I drew a line and went, nope, I'm just going to do
Yeah.
things on my own, and
Yeah.
decided if I'm going to move up in district, if I'm going to be an administrator, I'm going to find my own path instead
Yeah.
of doing it this way.
Yeah.
Which still hasn't happened. But at the same time, there's a plan for everybody. And that's
That's
why
true. That's true.
I'm not doing those things now.
So, I'm going to tell you a story about like one of the funniest things I think that ever happened with like friends at work.
Once upon a time.
And what is it?
Once upon a time.
Once upon a time in a
Okay.
little school in New Jersey,
Okay.
there was a girl who was pregnant with 2 babies.
Oh.
And she was the team leader of her grade and hosted all of the meetings. I mean, 10 plus years, right? I hosted every meeting for every person all the time. But my very favorite, and really, I have to say, my core group of friends that, and we still have, like the obnoxious teacher text strand, and there's 10 of us, and it's like this core group, and it just, some days we don't hear anything, other days there's 66 messages, but we are all extremely like bonded with one another from our shared experiences and everything that we went through together. But anyway, that the meeting happens and I am struggling. I mean, I was like, the size of someone carrying, many children, and uh and I walked into the I mean, it was a lot. I was like, "Whoa." When I was pregnant with the twins, my feet were so big that I had to wear like men's flip-flops. It was like it was a lot.
Can I
So
say
I'm like,
can
I'm here.
can I say the line?
Yeah.
It's a line that you use to describe a sweaty ID picture. Somewhere a bridge is missing its troll.
It's so true. And also,
I'm sure you
my
look.
face grew. No, I looked no, women glow and blah blah blah. When I had Drew, I looked awesome. Like people couldn't really, like, I didn't look pregnant until like 2 weeks before he was born. This was like, whoa, what's happening to you? So anyway, so I walk into the meeting. It's like the last meeting that I'm having before I go on maternity leave, and I'm like and everybody in the room, women, men, everyone had a basketball under their shirt. And one woman had 2. Like, she was like, "I have twins too." Like, everybody had it was and I have this 8 by 10 picture. We'll have to put it in. It was just, like, so perfect. And we had this 8 by 10 picture, and it said, like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna, like, misquote it, but basically it was like, sometimes when you're this close, like, like, things just happen, and everyone, when Team 6 does something together, like, we all do it together, and it was just, like, the most precious, and I've had the picture, the girls are 12 already, I've had the picture, and I just, like, I look at it and I just smile at all those people who, supported me during all of those meetings and all that time, and now, of course, like, even as we get a little bit older, it's like you start out with, like, marriages and having children and, the wedding season, right? And then you start to get through, like, parents being sick and people losing their family members and, like, all of those really, like, the ups and the downs. And, and they just know you in a way that is, it's so spectacular. It's just so special, and
And
you protect it.
I also think that it's not even like, we're both been married for a very long time. It's something
Yeah.
that even your spouses can't really understand. Like,
No.
they can't grasp it.
No, and even, like, we have educator spouses, right? So we do have an advantage in that way, because we are married to people who know what it's like to have kids, to work with kids, to be around, and so because there are plenty of people who their spouses, like, 0% understand what their day is about.
Yeah.
But it's not even that. It's just these, experiences are so irreplaceable. And there are so many people that um, they can say like one word and you just know. They look at you, you just know, and it can be like, good, bad, and different, when they're struggling, and you just and it's so special. And I have to say that to me is probably absolutely one of the very best parts of teaching, is that, you are in the throes of it every day with other teachers. And so for those of you, and I think we said that this last year too, and I think there was a woman that we had interviewed at Ed Camp last year, and she kind of told us, like, if you haven't found your people yet, right, or like you start in a school and it's not your vibe, it's not what you're feeling, like, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, if I could go back to my, like, 22, 23-year-old self, I would just say, like, give it time, because
Yeah.
you are about to meet people that you will love more than you could ever have dreamed.
Yeah.
And it's just so true. I mean, it's amazing that, and I just had dinner with one of my, we always call each other, LOML, which is love of my life. And, we had interviewed her last, spring, season 1, the end of the season. She's in her retirement era and she's doing really well,
Nice.
in her retirement era. But, it is, we are probably like one of the most unlikely pairs. And I think that's so great about teaching relationships too, is that you meet people and you're like, these two people just don't really seem to fit, but they make perfect sense.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's also a gift, is that you end up meeting people. And, I mean, here she's, I wouldn't say old enough to be my mom, because she's not, but, definitely, like, there's a big age difference. But you kind of get to that certain point in your life where it really doesn't matter anymore. And
Yeah.
that's also, like, this wonderful thing, is that, like, yeah, the jokes and the stories or the TV shows or the songs are a little bit more understandable with people that are, you're within 5 years of you. But, I think that's also the great part, about school, is that, someone could be 19 years older than you are, and it does not matter.
Oh, yeah, and that was our little group that we had that got close together. We were on the same team together.
Mhm.
And
Shout
'cause
out
we used
teams.
yeah,
Love
shout
them.
out team. So that was actually part of it too. Like, we spent so much time together.
Yes.
And, like, some of us became very close with one another. So it was the same thing. We'd get together. We would, go to one guy's house and hang out. We'd get invited over at Christmas time, and, we went to one of our coworkers' child's weddings, and all sorts of stuff like that. And, um, I think that was part of the, like, because of the way the system was at the time, where you had teams and you would, like, meeting with people, like, that kinda, like, forced you to be with the same group of people all the time. And there were other people that were close to my age that were
Yeah.
like, "No, this that." they didn't really like. I'd been on different teams before, and like finally I had switched around, and then finally
Mhm.
when I got onto this one, I found my people
It
that we had a
clicked.
lot of things in common,
Yeah.
and there was an age difference, which is a rather large age difference. Like one of the women was actually my eighth grade English teacher,
Wow.
um, which that's an interesting dynamic too. And I was always call her Mrs. Stack because I was like, I am not calling you Diane because you're
Yeah.
just not.
Yeah.
So too bad. Um, so yeah, there's that, and then that was also as those people started to leave, and
Yeah.
then things started to change. It became evident that it was like, yeah, I kind of need a chance. I didn't leave because of the people. Like, there was a variety of reasons why I decided that I wanted to move to a different school. Like, because you just get to a point where you're like, yeah, you know what? I've kind of outgrown the space. I need to change. Um,
If there is anything that I can say about leaving a school that I had, that I was in for more than half of my life on earth, I'm sorry that I say that to the people who listen to episode after episode. I'm sorry that I say that so many times, but clearly it's a very significant thing for me. The thing that I would tell everybody in education is like, get up and go. If
yeah.
you can go to a different school, do it because it's going to be really hard. It's going to be super challenging, stressful, and all the things that you think it's going to be. But at the same time, it's going to change your perspective, your attitude, your feelings. It's going to breathe life into your career.
Is there anything that, not to kind of change the subject, but is
Do
there
it.
anything where you are in your career right now? Is there anything
Mhm.
that you say, okay, if this opportunity came about, I would take it and go?
Hmm. That's a good question.
Not to put you on the spot.
Mm, the older, we both had aspirations of administration, right? We both kind of thought we were going to go in that direction, and for one reason or another, it hasn't gone. I mean, we still have, like 10 years. Who knows what's going to happen in 10 years, right?
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say, and especially with our new with our new contract, and where I am in my like personal life, I don't think that there's anything that I would like to do other than um, leave the classroom to do teacher training.
I think that would
I would
be
love to do that.
there would be a number 1,
Right.
for me, which
Same.
which I had been an advocate for having some kind of instructional coaching model, that I did in our building that we were in for a little while, where I was
Yes,
doing,
you
like,
did.
more of, like, a technology coaching
That's
role
where
where
we worked together quite a bit.
yeah,
Yeah, when we
absolutely.
first met. Yeah,
Um, so, of course, if something like that came about,
pounce.
I'd be all over it and pounce
Yeah.
on it. However,
Mhm.
at the same regard, there is a course that's taught at the high school level called, Tomorrow's Teachers, where, like,
Oh
high
yeah.
school seniors go and they get, like, an experience of, being in an elementary school or middle school classroom, and they kinda work
Mhm.
as, like, classroom helpers, and you talk about education. It's made for people that are, like, maybe thinking about going into teaching,
Yeah.
and that is something that, I'm wired to do that. Like, I mean, I personally feel that. I think that it was something so if that opportunity came up and I knew, like, okay, the person that is currently teaching that course is going at the 3 high schools that we work at that are in our district, if I found out that at one of them, that teacher was leaving, I would make a pitch to be like, "Look, I wanna be that guy. I wanna
What
be
is
the
that?
person."
What do you know what that requires? Like what department are they
I
in?
have honestly well, I know one of them is a social studies teacher,
Oh, okay, cool.
who is at, one of the local high schools,
Yeah.
and I would want that opportunity. I think it's an elective, so I don't know if
Mhm.
there's a specific certification that's needed, but that would be what I'd wanna do.
Wow, that
Um,
sounds cool.
yeah, I'd even wanna do it at honestly, something I always thought about doing is, like, at my old high school. Like,
Yeah,
that would be an interesting experience to me, like, because I'm a that those were formative years of my life that are very important to me.
yeah.
The people that I shared experiences with, I still, talk to a small group of them.
Mhm.
And I would want to give that a go at the end of my career if something didn't open up like in another way, like teacher training or stuff like that. Like maybe that's a post
Yeah,
retirement job of
yeah.
working for a college doing like what is it? Not the cooperating teacher, but like the advisor person that goes
Oh,
out, like,
yes,
yeah.
yes. Oh, yeah, I
So
would love to do that. Yeah, I'd like to teach at a college. I think it's really good that we both have I think for everybody, right? You think like, "Wow, I could do this," or "I'd like to try that." I think that that's, like, the curiosity part of, like, of our similarity as well of like, "Ooh, this would be" where I think other people are like,
yeah.
"No, leave me alone." Like, you grow where you're planted. Like, I think they're just
Yeah, I mean,
happy to
there's
be and which is great, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think, you and I do that a lot, like, "Oh, maybe this," or, "Oh, maybe that." So I entertain ideas like that.
yeah, and absolutely me too. And that's something I'd like to do, and I'd have those conversations. But I'd always thought to myself, like, maybe I want to teach high school. Maybe I want to do it just the end of my career for
Yeah.
funsies. And I know
Yeah.
some people are like, just write it out, do the same thing. But like, you know what?
That's not who you
At
are.
the same time, I let me make this very clear. I am very happy where I am. So
Yes.
that choice,
Yes.
I have said this to you, and I have no problem saying it. Like professionally, I'm the happiest that I've been, like, in regards to what I do in the classroom, where I am in my career, who I work with, who I work for.
Yes.
Um, you know, the respect that I think some people have for me, where they'll come and ask me for advice. Like, I like to be that kind of person. At the same time, there's not that I don't have one foot out the door or one foot into another school. Like, I don't want to go anywhere, but if the opportunity arises, I would explore it because that's something that I would like to do.
Right.
Which would then mean I would change situations again, and I'd be
Yeah.
with a different group of people, and
And
I'd have
then,
to
you might
find
make more friends,
yes
right?
or not, which is
I mean,
also okay.
well,
You know?
when I came to our where we are now, it was a tough time for me, like personally, and so I was very much, I'm coming in, I'm coming out, like almost like a zombie. Like I just was going through the motions of working, and I ended up meeting one of just like the most amazing people that I know I will be lifelong friends with, and so don't count out the opportunity
Oh yeah.
to meet people that, I mean, I could have never expected to have made such a beautiful, wonderful friend, as of course Robin. And so, you just don't know. And she and I weren't meeting necessarily, like we didn't talk about students, we didn't have anybody overlapping, we don't teach the same subject, you know what I mean? So like it kind of, was born out of other things, but so you just
Well,
don't know.
there we go back to trauma again, not to speak about Robin's
Yeah.
situation, but, after losing a family member, which was very she lost her mom, that was very important to her, and I know that you were we've openly talked about, what your family and your mom's going through, so I think there is definitely a connection between the 2 of you because of that,
Yes.
and because, like and you've even said it, and I completely agree with it, like, we're speaking about her on the podcast and she's not here, but like Robin should be giving classes on empathy of like how to
Right.
be a listener, how to
Right.
talk to other people, how to
Yeah.
be like,
How to
and
make space for other people's feelings.
she's just so good
She's
at it.
the opposite of people who would say, like, "Oh, yeah, we all have stuff. Oh, yeah, it's really hard.
You
Oh, I
tried
must
to
be so busy."
you tried to get me, but I was ready for it. You
You
tried to
know?
get me again.
No, but seriously, I mean, she's like
Yeah.
it doesn't she is completely unflappable when it comes to like opening up emotional space.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's always really just the lesson is like there's always opportunities to find new and amazing people that you could have never dreamed would come into your life. And so we go back to if you haven't found them yet, give it time, keep looking. If you're young and you're just starting out, your best friend could be a 47-year-old. It's hard when you're 22 to think about like my best friend is 50. My best friend. I remember like people who had kids being like, "Oh my god, bro, they have kids." It's such a far away space. And but really, even those youngins, like, hey, open up your heart and your mind a little bit to all of us geriatrics that might be able to.
She said geriatrics. Yeah, that's for
Yeah.
sure. And I think in today's climate with the way the profession is, there's nothing wrong with saying, like, you know what, I'm going to move districts. I'm going to go to a different
Yes.
district altogether.
And we didn't have opportunity for that.
No,
because there was
like,
no jobs to be had. And
no.
now you can like bounce.
Yeah.
You can, which is great.
Yeah. You can go around like a ceiling fan. Round like a ceiling fan. Round like a ceiling.
Oh, it's a classic. Stop
she's
singing
Mr.
that. We're just not that close.
She's anyway, no, it's that's just important to remember. And the other thing just to make mention is, like, I know this, like, not to leave on this note, but, like, you also don't have to have people. You can have acquaintances. You don't have to have lifelong friends at your job. Maybe that's not for you. I'm not saying that it should. I don't,
Point counterpoint. Well,
I could not
I know.
live in that space. I could not, because I
No.
like, you have to be close to people because you share so much all the time.
And there's so much emotion.
Yeah.
What we do, we're in the business of people. So you have to have other people who are willing to hear, what you've taken on emotionally and help you through it. And, maybe, I don't know, maybe teaching's not for you if you're not,
Yeah. And listen, you could always meet somebody that you appreciate very much, like my buddy here, who taught you about Winnie the Poohing when it's too hot outside and the air conditioning isn't working.
Also known as Donald Ducking.
No,
right?
it is also known as Donald Ducking. I think there was a comedian who was like, "Why does Donald Duck always put a towel around his waist when he gets out of the shower?"
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Why?
Yeah, and he never wears pants. My dude's got to wear some pants. Well, Jamie, I appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you
very much. And we will see everybody on the next episode of Balancing Act Podcast.
Bye.
The Balancing Act Podcast will now be available weekly. Check out Apple Podcasts or Spotify and give us a follow. We appreciate you.